Well, I think that brings me to one of the things that I wanted to get into, that idea, that real issue of assessment, and what does assessment look like? How do we do assessment differently within authentic learning, project-based learning, summative and formative? Dana, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first and foremost, it has to all be about the formative assessment through the process, because sometimes, especially when you're taking this very authentic approach versus that simulated approach, you don't necessarily know what that outcome might be as the teacher. So it's going to have to be this compilation of continued formative assessment to ensure that you're doing what you need to do to help facilitate this process. Certainly not take over the process by any means, but to support students where they need supported, and to provide whatever kind of, do we need to do, small group, individual help, do we have to do a lesson for the entire class because we're seeing that they're struggling with this particular aspect of the project. So for me, it's really all about the formative assessment much more than it is about the summative assessment, because you should be able to predict where their students are going for that summative piece if you're doing enough of the formative assessment.
Mm-hmm. And so, any other thoughts on how, is assessment a stumbling block or something that keeps, is it something that keeps people from doing authentic learning, do you think, or is it something that leads teachers into doing more authentic learning?
To the extent that they get caught up in a question of how to translate authentic assessment back and forth to the state standardized or state required assessments, I think it can be a stumbling block. But I think there's also a real opportunity, again, to involve parents who come in with different subject matter expertise and backgrounds in helping teachers think about what authentic assessment really looks like in the subject or topic that they're working on, and sort of freeing up the teacher from a need to have to design a bunch of exit ticket opportunities or multiple choice questions or little Quizlets or journal entries, and have parents say, no, really, when we're doing a major landscaping project, this is the way that we assess whether things are going to grow effectively or not based on the way they're being planted. We've got documents for that. I think about, ACE not only learned about Gantt charting, which is a way of tracking whether projects are on scale, but immediately began to use it as building an idea for what their formative assessment plans should look like throughout a project, right? So I think there's a real opportunity to learn from the real world about assessment. That doesn't mean it's still going to be easy to translate what you learn from those formative assessments into, especially if you have very frequent standardized formative assessments. But I wouldn't let that be a stumbling block. I think both Dana and Ted have said, and I would agree, that when the students have a meaningful reason to learn this stuff, they learn it and they remember it for a long time.